here every time. There will be different people coming in for the different sessions and try to teach you basically how to work with data. So today's session is going to be about very basics of data. We are not going to work with data a lot. Today we are going to understand what it looks like and get comfortable with it, get comfortable with data in general. But before we do that, uh, I think it will be slightly difficult to have introductions of everybody because there are 20 people and we are already late. So please put in some introduction about you in the chat. You please let us know what discipline you are from and if you are familiar with data or any kind of statistics as such, or why do you want to learn data. Just like feel free to tell us more about yourself on the chat. And yeah, and while you do that, I just want to first discuss, like basically talk about this document which we had sent in yesterday. So So we were only able to reach 50 people and we had 50 free trials given to us by STATA, which I had forwarded to all of you in a document which sort of had all the schedules for all the 6, 7 classes and also how to install that, the serial number and everything. So has anybody faced any issue with respect to installing STATA or, like getting it to work? Have you guys been able to install it? Like, okay. Okay, so nobody is cool, cool. Okay, thank you for the reaction. Uh, yeah, awesome. So I'm assuming everybody was able to do that. Yeah, great. Also, like, please try to like give us feedback and tell us during the class if there's something you're not understanding, and please feel free to interrupt in between because this class is going to be about making you comfortable with data, and from the next class onwards there's going to be like much more work. So if you're not like asking today, it might be difficult to catch up later. So yeah, please take a minute to give in your introductions on the chat. I will just wait. JP, you have to enable screen share. I thought there could be two hosts, but maybe not. JP, you have to enable screen sharing.
Right now, can you do that?
Huh. Okay. Yeah. So also, like, if possible, please feel free to turn on your camera so that we can see you. That will also be nice. Okay, great. Okay, so basically, I think we have like a mixed batch of people. So please keep putting in these introductions. I'll keep reading those as well. And I think I can start now because we are also slightly late. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Is it? No? Now? Cool. Yeah, so basically, this session is a very basic session, just introducing data. And yeah, so basically, what is data and why to use it? So, it is a tool for data manipulation, visualization, statistics, and reporting. But more than that, it has become very important for people working in research, especially social scientists working in research, economists working in research, and all. And it has also become highly important for students like us because a lot of our research assistant jobs depend on data and whether we know the skill. And it might be more important for people who want to do research as compared to those who want to go for a corporate job, because with a corporate job, if you know other softwares, it's much more helpful and like Python, etc. But with data, with an academic job, like it usually asks whether you know data or not. The data tests are all in data. Most of the codes which are produced for top journals are in data, etc. So data has become very, very important. And yes, you can, if you know it real well, you can also make some money out of it as well, because literally all of the RA jobs right now, especially for economics and social science students, will have this line in them that you should know either data or R or have some data analysis. So that's why it has become very, very centric. And but obviously it's not the best. There are some issues with data as well. For example, it is very expensive. So we had to get some trial licenses for everybody here because we realized that not many people will have access to it unless you work somewhere. It's very difficult for as an individual to afford it. So that is one drawback of Stata, which is why we also would encourage you to learn other languages as well, like R and Python, which are free. But the thing is that Stata will be in demand for a couple of years at least, because basically path dependency, which is that a lot of senior researchers and a lot of professors are still dependent on Stata. Like we see, like I know, like the people I work with, they know Stata and they are much more comfortable with it. So that sort of helps me to sort of communicate with them when it comes to working on our research, right? So that is why it is still important, even though it is very expensive. So that's the motive of these classes. So just to sort of make you show you how it looks like. Just a second. Yeah. So this is what a Stata window looks like. Here, this is the command line. I will show it to you on the software also, but just going by the command line, like this screenshot, this is the command line where we enter all the codes. This is where the variables will come in when we load the data. And this is where all the past commands will come. So here I did something like just a display of 5 plus 10 and it showed 15. And then again, I did something wrong, which is like misspelled the code and it showed the error here. So all of these windows are very important, but this is where the bigger the square is where you get what is happening to the data as you are writing your code. So this is where it gets reflected. Also, please feel free to stop me whenever you want. Right. So moving on, before we jump to STATA, I just want to discuss the data set which we will be using for the entire data classes, like throughout the classes, and that is the IHDS data set. It is a panel data. It is publicly available, and I'm going to like tell you how to access it. I would suggest that please download it because all of the exercises or codes will be using this data set. So please download it with me or later, whatever works. Okay. So there are some. Okay, no questions in the chat. Okay, please stop me whenever you want. So this data set, now let's figure out how we can access it. Also, my computer is very slow, so please bear with me.
Either you can share the link in the chat also.
Yeah, let me open. So this is the main portal for downloading data.
Okay, so
And
we cannot see that. We are still on the slideshow.
oh, okay, yeah, okay. How do I will have to stop share and share the entire thing, right?
Yes, share the entire window, but Vinayakan has shared the link. So
Oh yeah, great. But I think I still want to show the portal to everybody. Okay, now is it visible?
yes,
Okay. So this is the portal. So I just Googled IHDS and this is the first thing that came. And this is the data download link. So what has been put on the chat is the I think the home page of the data. But nevertheless, this is very easy to figure out. What you have to do is you have to make a profile on this. So you have to sign up. It will ask you some questions about your name, your organization, whatever. Those things you can put, and then what will happen out of it is that you will come to this data download page, and this is the main page which we need. So as I told you, there are two rounds of this data set. IHDS 1 in 2004 and 5 and IHDS 2 in 2011 and 12. And one more round is coming in 2023. So I think it will be very useful if you are able to, get familiarized with not just data but also IHDS during this time. And so that once the most recent round of 2023 comes, you are able to, go through that as well. And maybe like if you have some ideas, if you have some research questions you want to pursue, you will at least be familiar with data by the time the new data set is released. And this is a highly sought after data. It is very clean. It's like amazing for beginners, which is why we selected to work on this. Okay, so data download page is the one we need. And then we just click on which one, like which round do we want. So let's see the second round. Yes, so this is the main page. Then what we have to do is we have to just click on download and we have to select our format. So uh, Stata is the format which we need for us. But otherwise, whatever format you need, you can click on this and your download will start. So I will not download it because I already have it. And this is how you get to the data. So now once it is downloaded, this is what it looks like. You will have a zip folder. This is called a zip folder. And you will have to unzip it. Basically, I'm telling like the most basic so that everybody is on board. Also, my laptop is very slow. But anyway, so when you right click on it, you will get an option of extracting the data, which is what you do. Like with any zip folder, you extract that folder, extract all, and it will come as a normal folder. Let me try to optimize by choosing some stuff. Okay, great. So this is the data set. This. Now it might look little intimidating, but there is a system of looking at a data. So whenever you get a data, the first thing you have to do is that you have to look at the documentation, which is either the user guide or the data guide. So so as I say, important files are the data guide, which contains information on all of these folders. So what do these folders look like? And also the user guide, which tells us more about the variables, but it's not defined. With different data sets, you will get different kind of guides, different terminologies. But the basic point is to get some information about what are these folders, which file is the most relevant file for what you are trying to do. So this survey has a lot of folders, as you can see here in this image, and because they collect data about a lot of things. They collect data about the individuals in each household. Then there is data file about the household itself. Then there's a data file which gives you data about the women and like birth history, medical stuff, things like that. So because this data set covers so many things, it also has so many files, and each file has a different questionnaire, has a different set of variables they are talking about. Okay, so yeah, so let's just try to figure out this data set for some time, because this is very important for the rest of the classes. So number one documentation is the data guide, and the other is the user guide. Apart from that, nothing else here. Let me also open the user guide. So this is the data guide. Very short, 10 page. We can read through this. And I think like if you find this document, please read everything before you start. So a good exercise before the next class would be to read these documents, which you will find from the data set. Okay. Okay, table of contents. It has an introduction about the guide, about the data. It tells us about the sample. So it basically has 42,000 households. So how did they select 42,000 households from the entire country? That is something they talk about in the sample. Then let's see what they talk about in the data elements. So sample has how number of households in the first round, number of households in the second round which they had interviewed, and data elements is basically they are telling us how were the ways in which they were talking to people. So one interview was to the head of the household to talk about the socio-economic conditions. So whenever people are designing questionnaires, which as an RA you might have to do, you also have to figure out, okay, if I need information on the demographics of a household, who do I ask this to? So normally people ask this to the head of the household. And if you read through these kind of documents, it will also like prepare you to understand how questionnaires work. So if when you are making questionnaires, it could be helpful. I realize that there are people here who are doing PhD who might know all these things already. So I'm just I think like I have to like make it also like for people who do not have any experience. So that's why I'm trying to sort of tell all the basic things. So please bear with me. This you might think that you know all of this which I'm talking about in this class. right? So this is what they're telling us about how they were talking to people and that. So table is the most important table right now because it is helping us figure out, okay, what is this DS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So DS1 basically is something about individuals. So I don't know what about individual, but something to do about individual. And DS2 has something to do about household. What exactly we have to find out from the folders. So I will go to the folders in a file. Variable names, okay, how they are coding it. Variables will have two-letter code. I will show you the questionnaire, so it will be very clear after that, hopefully. And this is the weights. I will not talk about the weights right now because it has more to do about statistics. And I am personally also always confused about weights, so I will not be the best person to talk about them here. And okay, so this is important. Merging data files. So as I said, so what we saw here, let's see this. Let's see. So DS1, what is DS1? Something to do about individuals, but what exactly we don't know. So what does this folder have? This has something called a code book. So it will tell us perhaps more about the data or this folder. And it has the main data. It has the questionnaire. So again, so after you look at the user guides, the second thing to do is to look at the questionnaire. I personally feel that the questionnaire is the most helpful thing in the entire file. Uh, and not basically just a list of variables because a questionnaire helps you to sort of visualize how the data was getting collected, how one person was moving from one question to another question. So this is the this what data collection instrument, and this was from the DS1 folder, which had something to do about individuals, is what we saw in that user guide. So let's see. So this is the income and social capital questionnaire. Okay. And what kind of questions they are asking here? This is the consent statement. Yeah. So what are the type of questionnaires they are asking? Questions they are asking here is something we can get from this questionnaire. So when it says that it is an individual questionnaire, it probably is talking to the individuals, right? So when they say that we are a household questionnaire, whatever data we will have will be of the household. So, for example, the number of members in a household, the amount of land the household owns. So, the unit which we are talking about is the household. And in an individual survey, the unit which we are talking about is an individual. So, see, this is the household. Okay, and if this meeting ends, please join the same link because I don't have a paid Zoom. So anyway, so coming to this questionnaire, individual questionnaire, this has a household roster. So it is asking you about all those people who live in this household, who live under the same roof and share the same kitchen. This is their way of defining household. And they're going to collect information about every person in this entire questionnaire, not just the household, which is why it is an individual house. So here they are asking information, for example, on non-resident family members. For example, those who have gone for the purpose of employment, those who have migrated. So, their IDs, what is their name, what is their relationship, what is their sex, what is their age, this kind of thing. So, this data set will be at the level of the individual. Okay. Again, data on migration. Then there is how, okay, so we get something on the household here again. Okay. So you will also find some overlap between this individual questionnaire and household questionnaire. That will happen for sure. But I think the best way to figure this out is to go over all the PDFs and see what is there. One way to understand, again, one more important thing to keep in mind here is the code of each question. For example, name of crop which the household is producing. and this has a FM17 code. So the FM17 will be the name of the variable in the data set. Okay, so these are certain like things how which we should keep in mind while looking at this data. So anyway, so the question is then what we have the code book, which again is going to just give a list of variables. Okay, FM17 का मतलब क्या है? FM, what does FM17 mean? What something else mean? Like this. So yeah. So this question, for example, it's just telling us about the code of the question, question, but not in the exact how it is framed that you will get in the questionnaire. But here you are getting more of the question ID, and then you're getting okay, what is the value, what is the frequency of those things, how much is the missing data, and any other node, what is the mean of that variable, these kind of things. So these are some important documents to sort of look for while you are looking at any data set. And ISDS is it is a very simple data. It might look intimidating because it is huge, but I think one good way to go about it is to forget that it has so many folders and just focus on one folder, which is DS1 and DS2 for our purpose. So if there is any question on the data, then on the structure of the data set, then please let me know. And like, yeah, if this was like, okay. No questions? You can also put your questions in the chat. Okay, cool. So moving on, this is what the data looks like. So now we can move to the data set and see it in data. Let me open my do file. I will explain what a do file is very soon. But let me just open the data set and then we will. Is this making sense? Like whatever I'm saying? Ganesh, I'm going to ask. No? Hello? Am I audible? JP?
Yes, you are.
Okay, cool. So I got one response in the chat. Okay, just forget this exists. I just want to show the data. Okay. So just going to show you what is happening here. This is the DS2 folder. Here. This is the DS2 folder. This is the file I have opened. This one. So just trying to figure out what this is. This is what the data set looks like. This is the command window where people can enter the command. This is where the commands will show what we have entered. So there will be a history of commands, and there is this where whatever is happening, we are going to see. These are the set of variables which are there in this household survey. So it is a lot, but we are still going to make sense of this. So let's just see what our data looks like. So I think one thing I want to sort of probably a lot of people know this, but the difference between us, like as researchers and social scientists versus people who are working in data science, is that the data scientists are told not to look at the data. This is what I've heard from my friends. They are not supposed to look at the data. They are not supposed to try to make sense of the data. They have very objective things to do. But for us, it is very, very important to look at the data, to understand the data, and that is the next step for us. Uh, yeah, so I will tell the commands to call the data just in a few minutes. When I can just give me a minute. Okay. So this is what the data looks like. So just the variables, survey, which surveys is, what state is this, district ID. These kind of IDs are very important. You will find this. ID household is the main ID because it is telling us about the household. So again, if you read through the user guide, you will know what these IDs exactly stand for, and it also tells us how they came up to this ID, etc. How did they come to it? How did they form it? And this is the unique ID. Now, all of this I did not show you because I don't have that much time. But if you please go through through that 10-page document, it's very important, and also the other documents. This data guide also, which I forgot to tell you about. User guide, the 45-page one, and the data guide. All of these are very, very important. Please go through them. Anyway, coming back to this. Sorry. Yeah. So this is what our data looks like. These are the different variables. So every entry is about household. So for example, the first entry is about household one. We are talking about household one, nothing else. So what district does household one belong to, right? What is this HS3D? I don't know what HS3D is. So I can just look here where the variables and their labels are. So labels are describing the variables. So what is this HS3D? HS3D is the interview day. Okay, we don't care about that. We don't care about the interview one. That's not important to us. Okay, this meeting will end in 1 minute, and yeah, please join once it ends. Anyway, so let's see. For example, what is this? This sort of makes some sense. HS4A. No, I don't know what HS4A. So I can look at this here. Interview start R. Okay, fine. Then what is ID11? So ID11 is religion. And all of these things I don't need to know. I can see them here on the variable window. What this variable means. This ID12 ENM, it is the caste name. So we see this caste Malik here. So like this, we will get at every entry, we will get information about say household one, household two, household three, like that. And there are 42,152 households. This is how the data looks like. Then there will be something on the gender of the household head,
Fiza,
something about
just to stop.
my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so I was just talking about what these variables mean and how we have this entire window here, which is telling us, giving us the description of these variables. So this is what the data set looks like. So first thing to do is to know how to load the data set. Yes. Okay. So let's figure that out. So I will be using the commands instead of doing it like by clicking, because it's like the better norm is to use the commands, and there is a way to save these commands as well. So here, so loading data, this this command I'll just copy so that I don't have to type. So the command for loading any kind of DTA .dta data is use. That's it. And what is .dta? So .dta is the extension of the STATA file. For example, with uh, with the Microsoft Word, you have the extension .docx or with Excel, you have the extension .xls. So with Stata, you have it as .dta. But that does not mean that we cannot load other kind of files into it. We can, which I will tell you. So basically, how to load this data is use in double inverted commas the entire file path of the data. So wherever it is, that and the name of the file at the end .dta. So the name of the file for us, this is the entire file path. We can just copy it, and the name of the file for us is this 36151, which you can see. So just entering this, and the data set has appeared. So now there are few things which are before we get into the data set, how should we work on data? So if I type all my commands, suppose I want to just find out certain things about the occupation by caste category or the income by caste category of households, and I save that information. But if I have to now share that file with somebody else, in the sense that if I have to tell them what I have done, I will have to explain it to them. But there is a better way to do that. That is to keep all the code in one place, like to save all the code in one place and to share the file with them. So that is something you don't see on Excel. In Excel, you keep doing something and you don't, unless you write all the instructions somewhere, what did you do, step one, step two, unless you do that separately, you don't get it. But here, it is a basic norm for the research community to keep those commands. And the best way to keep those commands with you is through a do file. So this is what a do file looks like. You just had to click here, and it says new do file editor, and it will generate a new file editor for you. This is the do file, and you can just save. So as you can see, this is the do file I had made for this lectures, and this is the untitled do file. So I can write anything here. So first I will give it a title, or I can give it like tell people what is the purpose of this do file. So the purpose is suppose. Then there are other things which I can tell people. We go to this like that, and then I can start. So as you can see, uh, this text is a comment which I have put here to describe what is this, what is the purpose of this profile, who is the author of this profile. And these stars are important for commenting in the file. Now commenting is again very important because it just shouldn't look like bunch of lines and lines. It should look like that you are doing something here, right? Like what are you doing? You're able to make sense of it. For example, this is the lecture file I made. So it has some comments about, okay, what is the purpose, then loading data. So we are going to load data through these commands. We are going to explore data through these commands. So the comment is trying to, make you understand what is happening in the file. So the number of ways in which you can put a comment, number one is by a star. Number two, so when you put a star, notice that in the second line, whatever you type will not be a comment. So the star will only be as long as I am hitting enter. Once I hit enter, the comment is over. But if I want to write a paragraph, it will be very weird to, put stars in every line. What will be much more helpful is this star and this, sorry, forward slash and then a star. And now I can keep writing it, and I don't have to put anything. I can keep hitting enter. The moment I do a star and forward slash again, next line will not be a comment. So here I'm able to create like a set of comments by using this. So this, all of this, like it might be helpful to note all of this down if you want. This is one way of writing a comment. Now suppose I have some command, use whatever, which command I use. And now on the side, I want to put some comment. I can put 2 forward slashes here and I can write whatever I want to write, voting data, for example. So these are the 3 ways in which we can put in comments. And it is highly important. All of these 3 you will be using when you are making a tool file. So that is about the tool file. Does anybody have any questions about the tool file? No questions? So fine. Moving on to the next thing is a log file. So for example, whatever you do in this window, you're going to, so it's going to tell you what it did, right? Now, if you want to save all this, because once you close your STATA window, all of this will also disappear. So to save all that, you can use a log file. A log file is just going to uh, store everything which comes on this window, everything. Now, the command for a log file is, so this is where I start teaching from the do file because I've talked about this. Log using. And then you give the file path of where you want to store that log, which log file you are using. And so here, for example, log using C user, whatever. So in my STATA do files like folder, I am creating a lecture1.smcl. SMCL is also called a SMCL. I am creating a lecture1.smcl, which will be my log file. Okay. So, and this this is where I put options for this log file. So what more do I want from this log file? After a comma, I tell that replace. What replace means, if there is a log file called lecture1 in this folder, replace it with this file which I'm creating right now. Okay, so let me run this. And see what comes in here. So it says log using replace. It has created a log file which opened on this time. Log type is a SMCL. So I want to show what log file we have here, which it created. So as you can see, lecture1 SMCL file has been created.
Can I ask it out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Regarding the do file, so it's just like a notepad, or like does that serve more of a purpose than a notepad?
So it can help, like you can also run your commands from the file. You are not only you're storing it, but when you click on the code and you run it, you can run like bunch of code or you can run one line. So you will not have to type it here. It will come directly. So I did not have to type this log using in the command line. I just had to run it from the do file. So the do file is not only storing your data, it is also running this command.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was just showing the log file. So this is the log file we had. It doesn't have anything because we've not done anything here so far. But once we do, it will be full by the end of the lecture.
Is that
So this,
just one thing?
yeah,
Shelly has a doubt in the chat, if you can see.
okay. Okay, so what is a SMCL file? Okay, so the SMCL file is a type of a log file which is helping you capture what is happening in this window. Okay, so as I do it, things will be much more clearer. Suppose I just want to use this. Let me just close the file here and suppose I want to see, I want to keep a few variables. Okay, I don't want to keep all the variables. So I use this command. So this is where my do file comes handy. I select this line and I run it. So what has Stata done? Stata has executed this command. So it automatically came here. I did not have to enter anything in the command line. And it came here. So this command is basically keeping only these variables. Not so as you can see from here, all of the other variables have disappeared. Only these variables are left. Okay, so that is something we did. Now let's see how it came in the SNCL file. So in the SNCL file, what you can see is this, that this has already added. This is something I did not type. I just ran it from my do file. I typed it when I was making the file. I just ran it and it came in this file. So maybe keep is not a very good example of it because you don't see anything happening out of it. But if you do a describe, suppose. So a describe command has given us this result. Right now, just forget what describe is. We got some result. So what is our log file showing us now? A log file is showing us what came in that window. You know, this table which came in the window where associated with the do file we ran, it is just showing us what came in that window. So that's how the SMICL or log file is helpful. A SMICL is a type of a log file. So a log file can also be in the TXT format. So here I had used an SMCL format. What you can do is just remove SMCL and use a TXT. What you will get is a notepad kind of format. So in a notepad, you will see whatever you saw in the SMCL file. That's it. That's it. The notepad, you can make some changes because like notepad as an app allows you to edit, but you are not supposed to edit it. This is for you to keep to see how the data was showing, how it was coming when you were running some command. So that's the log file. Is that clear? Like any doubt on the log file? So this is how you open the log file. You close the log file by writing log close. So at the end, when we will close the log file, after closing whatever we type, it will not show in the log file. It is only till open and close that we have the content. Is there any doubt on the log file? Because these are two very, very important things, and you guys will use it once and you will know what it is. Like it's very easy. Don't worry a lot about this. Is there any doubt, Shelly? Is that okay? No. So it will not choose only. Okay, okay. So fine. So whatever we run, it will show that. So if I run this, which I ran, it showed that. Then I jumped and ran this describe and it showed that. Teach me all of this stuff I did not run. I did not execute. So that's why it's not showing. So whatever I will execute, it will show. Suppose if I just execute it from the command line, it will show, you know. Okay, cool. I think one good way to also learn this is to just try on your own as well. So, okay, fine. So log and SNCL files are log and do files are the two important things. You have to start your work with the do file. And yeah, so that's what we did. We started the work with the do file. First thing we did a clear basically clears everything which is on Stata. So there won't be anything left. Let me start from the beginning. This will capture log close is that if any log file is open, it will close it. So our log file was already open, right? We did not close it. We ran the log, then we just cleared, right? So if I do the log running again, it will show me an error that log file is already open because I did not close it first. So one way to do this is to capture log, is to just write capture log closed on top of it. These are like some things which people do out of habit, clear, capture, log, close, so that they don't face any issues while they are connected to file. So we did the capture, log, close, and then did the log again, and now there was no problem. So whatever half opened log file was there, which was not closed before, gets closed, and then we start with this one, which we have mentioned. And notice that it is a replace. So whatever I had done showed before, that has gone. It has been replaced by this one. Cool. So now using the data, this is the command. As I told you, there are different ways of loading the data. As this is the first class, I am showing you this most easy way. In the other class, we'll show you a more efficient way of doing that. So let's start by just keeping. Yeah, does anybody have any?
Yeah. Can I?
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You just replaced because you use the same file name each time. Could you explain the function of replace?
Yes. So if I had made it like lecture 2, then that lecture 1 file would have been there. The new file would have been lecture 2. But if I don't want to do that, then I will do replace. So whatever lecture 1 existed, whatever it had, that will go and it will be replaced by this one. Now few people might think, okay, it might be harmful to sort of replace an existing file which has a lot of work into it already. That is true. But so when I made the do file, I had just before starting this class, before running this command, my log file was full. Okay, but I replaced it. So I might have been like, okay, damn, my work is gone. But that is not true because I have all the commands in the do file. So the moment I run the entire do file, even though I've replaced it, all of the commands will come again, right? So replace is useful because we don't want to unnecessarily create different multiple versions or something. If we want to create multiple versions of things, then we will name them too, and yeah, and then we might go with the replace. So that's how it is. Is that clear?
So if you're replacing it each time, then what's the purpose of recording it in the first place? I'm getting confused. Sorry.
Okay, so suppose what happens is that I had to do I had to make some table. Okay, occupation by caste category. And I wrote it here in the do file and I created it and then I saved the work, whatever. But then I realized, okay, I did not have to create it by caste, I had to create it by gender. So what I will do is I will edit the file instead of whatever command I used for making that table for occupation and caste. I will replace caste and I will do it for occupation and gender. But that I don't care about that table one, right? That table one was wrong. I want the new table one which I have created is something else. I have put some alterations to it, right? So then I will use replace to replace whatever wrong file I have right now with the new file which I'm creating. So it's a way of updating your work, right? So if as so my table one will get updated that way, but if I'm creating something new, I will do with table number two. And it will keep happening to you that you might have to keep editing one table, several times. So you can't keep creating 10 versions of that, right?
So my doubt wasn't that because like
Okay.
since you already mentioned that you have the do file to generate whatever you get from the log file. So what's the need for the log file itself? Like
Yeah,
that was
okay. What fine, fine. So the need of the doc so suppose I run this describe, but I will not get so we don't see what's happening here in the do file. What happens comes in this window, right? And this window is being captured by the log file. So these are two separate things. What commands I'm writing are being captured by the do file, and whatever is the execution of that command. So suppose this describe I made, right? If I want to save all of this, if I want to capture all of this, that will be in my log file. Is that clear?
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I think we should hurry up. We don't have much time. Anyway, so let's go from the beginning. Clear, capture log, close, opening the log file, loading my data, and keeping some variables. That's it. Then browsing the data. For browsing the data, the command is browse, or you can just click here, data editor, browse here, and you will get this. So I have already browsed the data, so I will not. These are some of the variables I have kept for us to look at, which is the groups, the like what religion you belong to, what occupation, like ID 14. ID 14 is the main income source of the household. ID 18 is the occupation of the household head, or these kind of things. So this is what I have kept for us. Keep is the command for keeping. Then another useful command is ISID. So basically, it is trying to figure out whether is IDHH. So basically, is the IDHH variable a unique ID for the household? So when I do ISID it gives me nothing, which means that it is a unique ID. Suppose I had done this for this variable. It tells me variable ID 13 is missing, so it cannot be a unique ID. Okay. But for something which is not missing, which is a state ID, variable state ID does not uniquely identify the observation. ISID is telling us what is your variable unique variable or not, basically that. So we know that the ID household is the unique variable. Again, one more way to explore the data is to use this command describe, which tells us about a variable. So it tells us about the storage type, display format, and labels. This will be covered in class number 2. So right now, don't worry about what these things mean. They will be covered like in detail in class number 2. So describe basically tells you something about your data. It tells you the storage type. So string variable hai, whether it's an integer variable, this and that. And what is the label? I'm not to explain this right now because this we will explain in lecture number 2. Codebook is also one way to look at the data set. It is going to give you other type of information. So for example, this urban variable, it is weather urban residence from 2012. It has two unique values. This is what it is telling us. This has two unique values in the range from 0 and 1. It has zero missing values. So there is data in every cell. It is not missing, and the two options are rural and urban. So it is going to tell us what does each cell has. So here each like the cells have only two unique values. But here in the income option there are 15,000 unique values. So what is the average unique value? What is the standard deviation of the unique values? At 10% of the data, this is the 10th percentile, this is the 20th percentile, and how many missing. So I usually use this command to find out the number of unique values and the number of missing values. It helps me with that. So this is one command. Now coming to some few basic commands. One very important and basic command is summarize. Just do the command followed by the variable name income. We get a summary of the variable. So income variable has 42,000 observations. The average income is 12,000 or 1 lakh, sorry, 1,27,000. The standard deviation is this. The minimum is this and the maximum is this. Now it is helpful because it is telling us something like, okay, so there is a minimum which is negative. So you think about this, right? Can income be negative? In some cases not, but in some cases it can. So in this case of ISDS, the income is the net income. So it is your income minus your borrowing. And this I know because I have read the user guide. Okay, so you have to read the user guide. So min makes sense here, minus. But in some data sets, it might not make sense. And that depends on the type of variable. Okay. So yeah, max has a E in it, which might look weird, but that I will cover in lecture 4. How to work with this. What does this mean? Okay, I will work with that. Like you can Google it. It's like a scientific term. People might know about this, but I will cover this in lecture 4. So summarize is telling us something about the variable. You can also write SUMM, that is acceptable by STATA. Now to get more details about it, there is an option called D option or a detail option, also written as detail option. So after comma, you put all the options, and the detail options and summarize helps us with more values like the variance, skewness. What are the 4 largest values? What is the 50th percentile? What are the 4 smallest values? So summarize is telling us about the variable. It is giving us like some details about the variable, which is helpful. And yes, so you can see the variation here. It starts from -700, goes up till this. A lot of variation, right? So summarize is one. Next, okay. So there is one last variable which I really want to, sorry, one last command which I want to cover is the tab command. So sometimes, so this data of income is a continuous data. Okay. A continuous data is that it can take any value from 1 to infinity. Income can take any value. It's not going to be specific. But gender can take, suppose, only 3 categories or 4 categories. Or your religion variable can take only 5 categories. So to get a summarize, like to summarize that kind of variables, you can use the tab command. Tab is also short for tabulate. So for one variable, it is just giving us the frequency. So this is my variable, religion variable. And if I do a tab religion variable name, what do I get? I just get the frequency of the number of Hindu households in this data, the number of Muslim households in this data, and the other options, number of tribal households, like this. So this is what tab is helping. It's helping me create a table of one-way tabulation. Okay, it might sound like pata nahi kya hai, but it is basically telling you how many there are, and also person. Okay, so we just have 10 minutes for this time. So I think I will rush a little, but and these are things I also cover later, so don't worry on that. So what happens? So with tab, you can also do a two-way tabulation. So what is a two-way tabulation? A two-way tabulation is just giving us frequency of the of two variables at the same time. So not only do I get the frequency of Hindu, which I got here, Hindu households, I also get it by their electricity status. So the FU1, what is FU1? FU1 is household has electricity, yes or no, two options. So in this table, I can get, okay, there are 4,350 Hindu households which do not have electricity. There are 783 Muslim households which do not have electricity. So two-way tabulation helps you get frequency distribution of two variables at the same time. This is something I will also cover in 4th lecture when I will talk about summary tables. So yeah, don't worry about that a lot. Okay, fine. Now 2 things before we end. What happens if we are not able to, how do I know what kind of options? Okay, what is the difference between code book and sum? Okay, you just have to go through it. If you just see code book, it is not telling us, it is giving us percentiles, it is giving us mean, but the summarized command is giving you much more. It is giving you more detailed percentiles. It is giving you 4 smallest and the 4 largest values. It is giving you more than what the code book can offer. Okay. And summarize command is a much more common command than the code book command. Code book command is just giving you a description overview of the variable. Now, so one thing is that how do I know all these options? How do I know how can I get help when I'm using STATA? So what are these commands, right? So one very useful way to work with this is to use the help command, which is just put help and the command name for which you need help. So help tab, I did that. Now, okay, let's take help for one way tab. Now this tells us, this is going to explain everything there is about the command, and this should be the first thing you use for like, just in case you have a doubt. So what is it is telling us how the command is framed. So the command is tabulate, but in short you can use this variable name, which we did id11, and then there are other options if in wait, which will be discussed in the other classes. And then after comma, these are the options. Tabulate one options. You can use a missing option, which will treat missing values like other values. You can use a new frequency option, which will not display frequencies, only the percentage, and other things. So a help option is the best way to go about it if you have a problem in any of the commands. So don't worry a lot if you don't understand these commands right now, because this will be covered in the coming classes. This was not about telling you about commands. This was more about making you understand about how people work on data. So right now we've done something and we have changed the data set. So how do we save it? Save is this. Just save, then the file path and the name of the file. So lecture1.pta is how I want to save this, comma replace. This is how I'm saving it. That's it. Very, very easy command. So just execute that and the data set will get saved. So there was one more thing which I wanted to do, which was the importing CSV files. But I think I'll just skip that because that is there in the do file. We can cover it in the next class also. It's just one line, but we'll do it next time. Right now, if you have any doubts about the do file or the log file or any of these basic commands, please let me know. Saving file, how to load a file, if there are any issues. If you don't get the sense of the tab and the sum, that is okay, because all of that will be covered in the next classes. This is more about the do file and log file and saving and looping. So is there any problems for with that? I don't want to stretch this class beyond 3 minutes because there are some issues with is there any problem?
Can I ask it out?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So using the code file, we get it in a kind of not like in a tabular form, right? So is there any way to get the summary in a summary of the entire thing in a tabular form? I was like while using R, if you use codebook, you'll get it in a tabular form where you can just use that, right? So I was wondering if same is possible here.
So not using this code book, but you can save your tables and in other formats like the PDF format or the Excel format, which we will tell you how to do in the other class, like in class number 4. I will be taking that. So with codebook, this is what you get. You can't get it in tabular form. With you can make tables with other codes, other commands, which we will be discussing as we go ahead with the lecture.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question? Please feel free if you have any question about these do files and all. I will share the do files as well.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted
Yeah.
to ask how we can extract this table in Excel or Word, or we suppose I wanted to do something with these tables.
Yes,
So,
so that is a little, we should not go ahead of ourselves. That I will cover in lecture 4 for sure.
okay,
I've made the file and I will be covering
yeah, okay. Thank you.
that. Yeah. Any other question? So for next class, which next class will happen on 9th, we have sent the schedule at 7 p.m. Please, yeah, so, but one more thing, please download this data. And I will share the PDF with you after the class. It has the link for downloading the data. It has something which we did yet today. So if you have STATA, you will have the data. Please go ahead and try to run these commands and let me know if you feel if there are any other problems. Most of these things I have covered today. There was an exercise, but I think the class was slightly rushed towards the end, so it is okay if we skip the exercise. We can do it in the next class. But please download the data and look at the data and read the user file. I will send you this 2 file. I will send you this PPT and read it so that you know what is happening, what the data looks like. Different color. Sorry, can you with me? Okay, there's a question about different colors. So as you will use it, you will know what colors are coming for the commands. For the codes, the color is green. For this, the color is blue. So like that. So you will know as you will work on data, and the color doesn't really matter. So I'm sorry if this was not helpful, but I think we end the session here, and I will take more questions on email or in the next class. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Yeah, please send emails if you have any questions. I'm so sorry for rushing this, but the class is ending.